this meeting of the Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
All board members are present.
Very good, thank you. Will everybody please stand and join me in the pledges? Oh, very good. Thank you all for coming out tonight to this special meeting. We're going to do the budget tonight and set the tax rate and a few other things. So this is one of those meetings that usually draw a lot of people, but I'm glad everybody's here tonight, and we're looking forward to getting this going. And any public comments are, we'll do that during the budget hearing. So we'll get this thing going. And so at this time, I'm going to proceed on to public hearing to discuss the budget and proposed tax rates, and we're going to start with a presentation from Mr. Moy, our Chief Financial Officer. Mr. Moy.
Paige, did you want to start with anything before I get going?
No, I'll save when we get to the budget adoption.
Great.
So we're looking forward to this.
All right. Okay, thank you, President Finley, Ms. Maloney, board members, staff. This is normally an extremely short presentation, but this is a little bit of an unusual situation this year. So we're going to kind of recap a lot of the things we've been talking about over the last few months. So tonight, this is the public hearing. I've got a PowerPoint, and then the items that are on the agenda for your approval, certified rolls, debt defeasance, couple of other housekeeping items, and then there is the approval of the M&O and INS tax rates, which is going to be a little different than normal, plus election orders tonight. So we normally start with the general fund, but there's so much interaction between the tax rates on the general fund and the debt service fund, I decided to start with child nutrition. So by law, you must adopt the budgets for the general fund, the debt service fund, and child nutrition fund. So those are the three I'm going to be talking about tonight. I'm going to start with child nutrition. Their budget is going to be about $8.7 million for revenue, with a pretty even split between federal and local. Every year, the federal government raises the amount that they reimburse meals, breakfast and lunch through the National School Lunch Program. And every time they increase a reimbursement rate, we are required to raise our local rate on how much we charge students for breakfast and lunch. This year, we are looking at a 20-cent increase. The good news is, just like the year that we just wrapped up, the state has found some additional funds, and so students who normally would be paying a reduced amount are actually going to be free again this year. On the expenditure side, just like everyone else in the general fund, the non-teachers, they got a 3% pay increase. The budget includes some increased food prices, and that bottom number there, the $1.1 million in other, we have some significant equipment replacements going on this year. So a total of about $11.2 million. That is a deficit of about $2.5 million. Bringing their fund balance down to $2 million, which is about 2.5 months of fund balance. Now, this is planned because, remember, child nutrition funds don't have a target like the general fund of what the minimum fund balance should be. They have a target of what the maximum fund balance should be. And a couple of years ago, we had to file basically a spend down plan. How are we going to get rid of our excess fund balance? Well, we finishing up the big project at Clemens, and then a lot of these equipment replacements. Not all of it was capital. Some of it's less than $5,000 per item, so that was in the supply line. But this is really taking down that fund balance according to the plan from a couple of years ago. We should be in good shape by the end of next fiscal year. All right, moving into the general fund. It's a total revenue budget of almost $178 million. Obviously, the vast majority there is a little over half is state aid. Other local, that is mainly investment earnings, and then ticket sales from athletic events and so on. Federal revenue, a lot of that is we get reimbursed partially for our ROTC instructors from DOD, and we get money for operating a SHARS program, School Health and Related Services. So providing medical services to Medicaid-eligible children with IEPs, we get some reimbursement from that. So the big thing this year was changes in property values. Normally, this is a growing community. We see, it's always how much our property value is going to go up this year. From a taxable standpoint, they are actually going down about 10.5%, or almost $900 million reduction. And that's mainly due to the assumption, and the legislature said, go ahead and make the assumption that for your budgets, that these two bills that go to the voters in November to change the Constitution, one's to increase the homestead exemption for all homesteads from 100 to 140, and the second changes the additional homestead you are granted at 65 from 10,000 all the way up to 60,000. This budget does include increase in the M&O tax rate of 12 cents. We're going to get into that a lot more later on. So if you net the less revenue we're getting in because we have a lower tax base, plus the revenue that we anticipate bringing in with the higher tax rate, it nets out to where it's about a $5.5 million increase to local tax revenue. A very large increase in state aid. Most of that, or not most, but 8.3 million of that is increased what's called Tier 2 golden penny, copper penny yield. It is the matching funds that the state gives you to incentivize you to raise your M&O tax rate. So we'll actually be getting, if we get into the VATRE later, that passes, yes, we'll be bringing in more money from our local taxpayers, but we will also be tapping into 8.3 million of state funds that we can only get if we change the tax rate. The state revenue goes up also because of the lower property values. So remember, there's an inverse relationship between the state share of the funding formula and your property values. So if your property values go up, you get more tax collections on that base compressed rate, your state aid goes down. In this case, our base rate before the extra pennies is going way down, so state revenue has to go up to match, to fill in the difference. And then there's about 10 million due to legislative changes, mostly in Senate Bill 2. About half of that, 4.5 million, was specifically pointed to mandated raises. And we're gonna, there's always a little bit of difference up and down, timing issues when we get settle-ups from prior years' formulas. There's always changes with the appraisal rolls, and we got to run those through the comptroller, through our attorneys, then through TEA, and we get different settle-ups for prior years throughout the year. Expenditure side is also about 178 million. Obviously, the vast majority of that is salaries and benefits. If you take into account the TRS on behalf, it's about 132 million of the 178 million. It would be even a bigger share if you look at it on a percentage, but we are actually planning a lot of one-time spend this year in some other areas, specifically in that capital outlay number you see there at the bottom. That's, if we weren't going for the VATRE, that number probably wouldn't be there, or it would be a much, much smaller number. Just a reminder, the budget you will see posted on our website and the budget that's in your packet for adoption is by function code. It's basically how TEA defines a general operating area. There's probably about 26 or 27 of those codes. We utilize about 20 of them on the sheet that you have in front of you. What are the major increases to the revenue? The largest is 7.7 million compensation increase. That's the 4.5 million that the state said you will provide $2,500 for every teacher with 3 to 4 years of experience, $5,000 for every teacher with 5 or more years of experience. We chose to add the same increase to all teachers with 3+ years of experience, even if they didn't meet the state's definition of classroom teacher. So that means it's taking into account, we are also providing the same increase based on years of service to librarians, instructional coaches, the behavioral people. We didn't want to segregate one group of educators from another. And then for the 0 to 2 year teachers and all other staff, it was a 3% increase. That's about 1.4 million. And this year, the district does not plan on changing employee premiums for health insurance. We are absorbing the entire cost increase of about 1.4 million. That's for the new plan that's starting 1/1/26. Remember, this year, we basically have a 16-month year with Aetna because we decided to align our health plan to the calendar year because it just makes more sense with things like flex spending accounts, health savings accounts, and everything like that. So we basically just took this year that we're in, extended it 4 months at the current rates, and then moving on with a new plan year on 1/1. Okay, here's some of the things that have been added that in a normal year we probably would have said, nope, don't have money for that. There are so many things that we have deferred. Usually people talk about deferred maintenance, things that JD and Jason's group do, but we're also deferring a lot of things related to student programs. We could buy up to $3.6 million to improvements to fine arts. A lot of that is in band and orchestra equipment or instruments that are in dire need of replacement. About $600,000 in athletic equipment and some improvements, $900,000 career and tech for different labs for different classes, plus some vehicle replacement, and our technology replacement plan. Up until 25-26, we had set aside an amount of fund balance and said, this is what we're going to use, and I think we did it for about 3 years, maybe 4, when we said we're just going to eat into fund balance for the technology replacement plan, a separate pot of fund balance. Well, this year, now we need to roll it into regular expenditures. There's also about $5.6 million in some one-time capital outlay for some safety enhancements. There are things in there like there are fire alarm suppression systems that need to be replaced. There are a couple of playgrounds that we could make safer. There just a myriad of things in there that we just need. We've never had this money. We said we're just going to go out and do this once. So a lot of those are not projects that you will see again in 26, 27, or beyond. So this was a balanced budget, or is a balanced budget, that we put before you tonight to approve. We think we're going to end this year with about $53.5 million of fund balance, and which means we're going to end next year with the same amount. And that is 34% of operating expenditures, a good 9% higher than our fund balance target. Moving into debt service. So revenue side, we've got collecting taxes. This assumes a 41-cent INS rate. And then we do get hold harmless funds from the state for some of the homestead exemption increases that happened prior to the one that's going to the voters this November. So this is the hold harmless on when they changed it from 25 to 40 and 40 to 100. We have required debt payments of about $29 million, and we anticipate doing, one of the items you have to approve tonight in front of you is a defeasance order for $9 million. And we are going to continue the plan of paying down debt early. It's not as much as we did this year. We did 14.7 this year, but we are proposing a different tax rate for next year. There's not as much to do for paying down extra. going to remind me later on that. So that brings, that's actually a reduction to fund balance of about $1 million, but as we discussed in some of the other workshops, we have a very healthy debt service fund balance, and it's going to, this will not make really a dent in how we plan to utilize that fund balance to keep things stable, assuming we have a successful bond election in May of '26. Okay, what does this mean for taxes on the average home in Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City? What we are proposing is a tax rate, I'm sorry, let me go back. If we did nothing to the tax rate, kept it at 113.69, because of Senate Bill 4, the average homeowner who's doesn't have their taxes already frozen would see a reduction of the tax bill of about $566. If we adopt the higher M&O tax rate of 12 pennies going up to 0.7869, but a lower INS rate, 41 cents, the net change to the tax rate is 6 cents, and the net savings to the homeowner is now $453 instead of $566. So that is a $113 requested investment in the school district. And why are we asking for a higher M&O rate? Because of those matching pennies from the state that I was telling you about. So if we go for all 12 available pennies to us, 3 have a very large match from the state, 9 have a small match from the state. So for every penny of the first 3 of the increase, we get about $740,000 locally and about $1.9 million from the state. Why is it so much from the state? Because that match is based on if we were the 95th percentile richest district in the state, how much money would we collect on a penny? Well, apparently that 95th percentile is somewhere around $2.6 million. We only collect $740,000. The state makes up the difference. So you're always tied to the 95th percentile on those golden pennies. That's why they're called golden. So with all 12 pennies, it would be an increase in this forecast. It says 17 million. There are so many things still up in the air with Senate Bill 2, and there's still things up in the air with how are the exact numbers going to fall out from the 2 homestead exemption that are on the constitutional amendment. So I've shown you this number anywhere from exactly 16 million to 16.4 to 16.8. Tonight I'm doing the 17.1. It's as good a model that's up to date as any, but it could go back down somewhere a little bit lower. But certainly any amount is better than what we're working with right now in terms of revenue. So why ask for those pennies? This is, and always has been, a fiscally conservative district. We don't run a lot of deficits. We don't want to, and we don't spend that. Basically, we don't spend what we don't have. Our revenue and expenditures per average daily attendance are the lowest of all ISDs in Guadalupe and Bear. I say that we are technically 0.1% higher revenue per student than Northeast. We're practically tied as the lowest. So since 2019-2020, we have adopted deficit budgets. Before then, not only were we not looking at actual deficits, we weren't even adopting budget deficits. You know you don't spend all of your budget. That means there's always going to be a surplus at the end. But since 2019-2020, we've adopted deficit budgets ranging anywhere from $2 million to this year, we adopted a deficit of $11 million. But as I said, up until 23-24, we had never realized a deficit. 23-24 was $800,000, and this year, we're projecting to have a deficit of about $6.5 million. That is not sustainable. There are things we can do to mitigate that, but there's also a way for us to increase on the revenue side. So here's what I was saying. Revenue per ADA, that's us, second from the bottom, and a practical tie with Northeast ISD. So obviously, what those colors mean is if you have already accessed your golden and copper pennies, you're getting more revenue per student. And same if you've only accessed the golden and all of your golden, or if you are just like everyone, the most conservative, you're in the blue, which means you've only gone 5 pennies over compressed, which was the legal limit before going to the voters. And I can tell you, we don't move up this graph a whole lot. If something, even if we get 12 pennies, we are not going to be at 14,000 per student like Edgewood. It's going to take our a little bit over 10,000 and make it a little over 11,500 per student. Still, that's significant. The reason for that is because a lot of the formulas have to do with your property value, which those districts up at the top do not have a lot of property value, and your student makeup. If you have more, say, economically disadvantaged children, your funding goes up, so you get more, your funding per ADA goes up. And of the money we get in, yes, we're gonna have a deficit this year. We really don't spend what we don't have. We are the lowest spending district between Guadalupe and Bexar counties. So, as we talked about before, in 2019, there was a big school funding bill. Yay, it's gonna save, and we're, districts that are on the brink, it's gonna save us, sort of. In 2025, they did the same thing. They provided additional funds. Both of these, 6 years ago and this year, a lot of the funding was either mandated spending or had strings attached. Very little was district discretionary on what to do with the funds. And none of it really went to, especially in the 2025 bill, went to the basic allotment, which is just the building block of the entire formula. So in 2019, the basic allotment moved to 6,160. 6 years later, it went up to a whopping 6,215. If only indexed for inflation, the basic allotment per student should be over $7,900. At $7,900, we would be $24 million in revenue higher than we are now, and probably would not be looking at raising a tax rate. So when you don't adjust the basic allotment, you're saying that you are not addressing basic inflation. So now we're asking the voters, the local community, to help address what the state hasn't. If we wait 2 more years to see if the legislature does anything in 2027, well, we might as well wait till then, 2029, 2030. When do we stop waiting on the state? And even when revenue does go up, it doesn't go up significantly. So yes, there are some changes in these out years, 22, 23, 24. A lot of that is the change in our student makeup. That also correlates to when the state got sued by the federal government on under-identifying special education students. And since that time, our special education students have gone up and up and up and up. And so their weighted funding goes up and up and up and up. But then again, so do the services we need to provide are going up and up and up. Also, there's been, everyone says, oh, you bleeding heart liberal, you keep mentioning unfunded mandates. Well, you put in an SRO program that's $2.5 million and you only fund us $300,000. So a lot of this money was spoken for before it ever came in from TEA. Also, there are things that go outside the normal inflationary costs. As you've looked at your own homeowners and auto insurance, our insurance has gone up 140%. To shore up the teacher retirement system, the state put a lot more on what comes out of an employee's check and what comes out of a school district's pockets to go into the retirement system and the retirement health plan system. Our health insurance in 5 years has gone up 74%. I already mentioned the SROs, and there was a major shift in just how substitute teaching works during the pandemic. And we are now very much in a model of we need what we call our company that we do with is ESS. Our substitute teachers are now outsourced. The bad news is it's more expensive. The good news is it saves admin, Function 41 costs internally, and because they have such a large pool that can service multiple districts on any day, our fill rates have gone up. So that's good for the classroom. Just a reminder, this is not a one-time influx of 17 million. This is ongoing. This is not just to look at the 25-26 year. This goes on for 4 years to include planning 4 years of compensation, planning 4 years of program enhancements, and maintaining our financial stability. It definitely increases the likelihood that we will be able to give future raises. Some of the things that we talked about will be ongoing in the continued replacement of technology devices, continued replacement of instruments, everything that goes, technology, all that stuff now we will have some sort of comfort that those were more likely to happen, and we're not going to just put a stop to purchasing everything. And it closes that funding gap with the SRO program. So what happens if in November this doesn't pass? Obviously, that's about 17 million of revenue that won't come in. That 11.5 million for the deferred projects and one-time capital, well, we may have to look at deferring a lot of that again until we discover a different revenue source to cover them. We would, as easy to do, first thing, possibly freeze all vacant positions, review them one by one before filling them. And we're going to do a lot with our upcoming cost driver committee. So just to let you know, if we lost a 17 in revenue, and we decided that what we were going to cut was these two large 25-26 expenditures in the program replacements and the capital, the deficit instead of being at a budget balance, we would be at a budget deficit of about $5.5 million. What does that mean? These upcoming slides this isn't meant to be a scare tactic. It's meant to show that we've actually thought about what types of things would we have to bring for your consideration in order to reduce expenditures. Because if you're not going to bring in the revenue and you don't want to have a deficit, you must reduce the expenditures. So it means we wouldn't probably have the capacity for good pay raises. We may have to leave positions unfilled longer or freeze them completely.
Brian, that's for the 26-27 school year.
Yes,
We've
I'm
already
sorry.
set
Yes,
raises for 25-26.
This is
yeah.
beyond 25-26. Nothing will change except for, in 25-26, except possibly some of those items like that I kept talking about with CTE, fine arts. We may not do as much of that this upcoming year. But beyond this, so for 26-27 beyond, we may have to start passing along the health plan increases to the employees. Again, we may have to reduce total approved FTEs. I'm not saying it says reduction in staff. This is not a RIF. This is not handing out pink slips. This is being strategic in what positions, if they are vacant, do we eliminate or do we consolidate? Do we move people around? And if we're not increasing our pay scale, does that mean we lose teachers to other districts? We bring in anyone who wants to be in fine arts and athletics. One thing we can look at is limiting participation. As I mentioned, we may not be able to do some of these other operating costs, equipment, band, instruments and such. Certain things that are covered by the district, we may ask from the parents to do. Something like, whether that be certain pieces of the uniform or certain equipment that they have to have. And we may have to look at some of our specialized offerings and say, is that still viable? We talked about it at the last budget workshop. I joked that, some districts have a Model T Ford philosophy when it comes to their scheduling. Model Ts, you can have in any color you want as long as it's black. You can have any foreign language you want as long as it's Spanish. So maybe we cut out something like, one or two foreign languages. I'm not saying we're going to do that. These are things that we have to have in our mind. Should the TRE not happen, things that we need to bring to you for future consideration. And this may mean scaling back on our devices. We are already, as Steve pointed out in a previous presentation, we are not a one-to-one district. We are I forget the term to use, but it's, as needed one-to-one. So you don't need a Chromebook for a student when they're at their lunch hour, but you take those Chromebooks and move them to a classroom where the kid isn't on their lunch hour. So effectively, we're one-to-one. We may have to pull back on some of that. Some of the different types of software we offer for teachers and admin may have to be reduced. Aging devices may have to stay in circulation longer. And we may have to consider an option other than the SRO program for school security. Remember, the bill said that when they passed the mandate, they said you must have an SRO unless you file a waiver due to can't find the staff, don't have the money, then you can go to a lesser system. There's always that possibility of going to the lesser system, whether that be like a guardian program or, security guards instead of licensed peace officers. And that is it for tonight. That's basically rounds out everything that you're going to be voting on in a couple of minutes after the public comments. Just so you know, this is what's in your packet. We have a balanced general fund, a small intended deficit in child nutrition because they have to, and a small deficit in debt service, which is fine. It's planned and it's going to go to a good use. Are there any questions before we turn the meeting over to public comments?
Anybody have any questions or comments at this portion? Okay, hearing
Hold on.
none.
So I just want to point out that we've been doing this since March, February, March. We've been looking at this. I mean, this is all of what Brian presented. None of this is new to us. We've taken deep dives into this. We've taken a look at every angle of our budget that we can look at. We talked about the pennies and how many pennies, like what that would mean to the taxpayer, and what it means to, what it potentially means to us. We have been fiscally conservative. And by that, I mean, we really have run a very tight ship around here. We have done everything we can to put money right in front of the student, which is through our teachers and anyone who works with our students. But everything else has been kind of bumped aside. And we can no longer do that anymore. We really need to be taking care of things. It's just like your own home. You can't ignore things. You have to, when you buy a home, you know that that comes with expenses down the line, or even a car, maintenance. Well, that's where we are with this, and we really need to get to the point where that is baked into our budget, rather than, showing up one year and saying a Hail Mary and go, well, I hope we can afford those 6 different, or fixing those air conditioners and stuff like that. But this is, like I said, this is nothing that's new to us. We've taken deep dives into this stuff, and so everything tonight is stuff that we've been talking about all spring.
Any other comments? I'm going to echo Ms. Seaver. I've been here for 18 years, actually since 2005, And to have to go back to the voters and ask for their local support is a difficult decision, but I think it's a decision that is best for our local community. These additional funds will go into our schools. It'll provide the services and the salaries that we need to make sure that our students have the best education possible. And we have done that year after year after year. I would put our academic success against anybody in the area. We have a very high graduation rate. We have a very high college graduation rate. Students who graduated in 4 years. I was stacked up against anybody. And as far as making sure that every penny is spent as well as it can be, we have done that year after year after year. So to come back to the voters is after we have pretty well exhausted everything we can think of. And if the VAT doesn't pass, then we'll have to make some really, really tough decisions. And we'll minimize that, but I would much rather continue the programs we have today because they are a success. Our students have proven that success over the years, and I want to continue that success. So saying that, I'm definitely going to be in favor of everything on the agenda tonight, and hopefully the voters will feel the same way.
This actually gives us back local control. All the money that we've ever gotten has strings attached. The money that we just got has strings attached. And this actually gives us back local control, which we always state up here is the number one thing that should be happening.
Yeah, every dollar of the local taxes and the state matches does not have the mandates, the strings.
Any other comments or questions?
I think it's important to point out that there are people in the legislature who feel if we don't go for the golden pennies and the copper pennies, we don't need them as bad as we might say, because they match so much more to the 95th percentile that it's important for us to have credibility to go for those pennies before we cry to the state that we don't have enough funding.
I agree with the other board members that we don't have a choice if we want to continue to offer the excellent programs and services that we have.
Okay, any other comments or questions on this item? Okay, at this time, I'm going to open it up to public let me get it right in a second. Public comments on this agenda item. And the only thing we ask is you please come to the microphone and state your name and whatever comments you wish to make. Mic's open.
My name is Dr. Irene Patrisky, and I have been a resident of Schertz, Texas since 1987. My husband retired after 40 years as a band director. He was a band director here at Samuel Clemens High School, and some of you board members or students were in my husband's band. Anyway, with that said, each time we receive our property tax bill, one of the items listed is for money for the school district. And my husband and I always mean for that to go to where it states on that property tax bill to this district. I've been very disappointed in the legislature for pretty much taxation without representation by some of those funds being sent elsewhere instead of staying here where my bill states it's supposed to be. I commend the district for doing as well as it has in providing the best opportunities for the students and the staff in this community. The presentation a while ago mentioned if we waited for the legislature to do something in the next legislative session, we're going to keep waiting. it's gone downhill since for years. I was in the field of education since the last century. Anyway, it has not gotten better. I commend the school district for reaching a B rating. I don't like the star. I think it's punitive. I don't think it does anything good for the students or the staff, the district as a whole. I see it as an instrument of being punitive. But still, receiving that rating, if you're going to go out to the taxpayer, at least you have that on your side, that you have been able to provide such wonderful opportunities and making it happen. How you survive through that pandemic lockdown, I just, y'all are amazing, just absolutely amazing to get through that. I support whatever we could do, and even though, Mr. Perkins, you mentioned about legislature wanting to use, making sure that we use golden pennies, well, this district has been very judicious as to when it would go out, because at some point, some years, it would have been to our detriment to go for those golden pennies. So you have to study this very carefully, as it appears that you have had, like Ms. Seaver said, been looking at this since February, even beyond that, year after year, because we have been working through deficits. And as I was telling Mr. Finley and some of the board members before this meeting started, it appalls me that I can't really think of a district that is not beginning this school year at a deficit, huge deficits. This is the 21st century. We've already spent a quarter of a century, and this is what we're doing to the students. How do we hope to advance? This is not looking at the future. Use whatever positive tools that you do have, because you have plenty. You have a great superintendent. I was beyond happy when Ms. Maloney was selected, because she knows finance. Same thing with President Finley. Ms. Seaver, you were a stickler at looking at everything even before you came on the board. So that's appreciated. But go with the positive things that the district has accomplished so far. Go with that B rating, accountability. This is what you've done. Put it out there how much money you have saved the district. One of the ways the district has saved money is paying off bonds, saving on interest rates. Put that out there if you're going to go to the taxpayer in our community, because you have to remember, not every taxpayer has a child in our school system. You've got to win those taxpayers over. We could relate as a homeowner, citizen, we could relate to higher insurance cost, everything else. But like we said when I first started in the field of education, the kids are our future. And so people want to live here. People come back to our community to live here. My husband attended a Band Directors Association convention this summer in July. His former students have now become successful band directors in their own rights. They are now university professors, having earned their PhDs, teaching in music departments across the country. He was so proud and so excited, sending me photos. So we look at one of the items mentioned there, fine arts programs. We've been putting it off. Well, these kids have been running with it. We have to keep investing. but please focus on the positive things, how we've handled finances so far in this district, but also pair that up with the accomplishments of our students. Thank you for your time, Ms. Maloney. Thank you, President Finley, and the rest of the board members.
Thank you, Dr. Petruski. Anyone else want to take a shot at the mic? Mic's open. Yeah, please state your name. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Superintendent Maloney and Board President Finley and board members. We're here tonight because we want to thank you all as a board for this transparent process in the budget and all of the information that has been shared. My name is Veronica Goldhorn, and I have born and raised in Schertz, lived here all my life, 56 years, and then went on to a 30-year career here in SCUC-ISD. So I am a huge supporter of this school district and continue to have nieces and nephews that are going to school in this school district. We want to praise you all as a board for the wonderful work. We heard a lot of great information, but before we go into that, I want to introduce my partner here.
My name is Carla Barnes, and I have been a resident of Schertz since 2008. And I was blessed to work in the school district for 13 years as a teacher and school counselor. I've been a business owner for the last 6 years and an active member in the community. But more importantly, I've had 3 children, 2 already graduate and 1 more on their way out. And so I want to say thank you for all the efforts you have done to do more with less. It is not an easy job.
So thank you for the compensation package that you have passed, the programs and the projects that you have shared tonight that we are looking to see, the technology that you have provided for our students, and the safety, most importantly. And also, as Mr. Moy mentioned, the healthy debt service as well.
It is time for us to ensure that we continue to invest in our students, but also the infrastructure around our students.
We also want to celebrate the B rating that the district has obtained. Congratulations with everything that you guys are doing. So we appreciate all that hard work. And we're here to tell you that we are going to continue to support the district through a political action committee. We're going to call it Students First.
At SCUC-ISD.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes. And we are just at the forefront of this initiative, and we are here to say that we are excited to see how we can support the upcoming election, and we are looking for other people to join our efforts. So if you are interested, please reach out. I'm Carla Barnes.
And Veronica Goldhorn.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Thank you, Ms. Goldhorn. Any other comments this time? I know you are, but go ahead and please state your name if you would.
Good evening, President Finley, Mrs. Maloney, and the board. My name is Allison Miller, and I am a longstanding principal. Mrs. Maloney called out the other day that I think I'm now the oldest. It's okay, it's who I am, and I'm honored to be here. And I just wanted to acknowledge each one of you tonight, board members, because as Mrs. Seaver had mentioned, you have put countless hours and time and dedication to study, to create this budget in partnership with our district leaders. And you have kept at the forefront the most important thing, which is our students. And so the students of Pascal Elementary and the students of SCUC want to say thank you for that. You have also kept in the forefront our student programs and the opportunities that you have allowed our students to participate in, from career and tech to fine arts to athletics and so much more. Additionally, you've kept a focus on safety. And when I talk to my parents and they see that SRO in the school building every single day and it becomes a familiar face, they are so thankful and grateful for the commitment that we have made to have police officers in our school building every single day. So I want to say thank you for your time and effort, and also on behalf of our teachers and staff. They put countless hours into our students. They pour their hearts and souls, their own paychecks, and to give their very best to our students every single day, and they are exceptional people who want to do right for our students. And so you partnering with all of us to make this possible, and the time and effort and the dedication has inspired me, and I'm greatly appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Anyone else? Mic is open for whoever would like say a few words. Okay, we're going once, going twice. That's 3 times. That portion's closed. So I'll get a sentence. Public comments is closed. Thank you. One thing I will say at the end, and I will tell you this personally for myself, one of the things that I've been on the board a long time, and whenever I make a decision or try to decide something, the students are my first concern, always. I always ask the question, is this good for our students? And then right behind that, is this good for our staff and our teachers and our community? And unless that answer is yes, I am very hesitant to vote for it. But I can say emphatically, my answer is yes on this one, because we have got to do the best we can for our students going forward. And with that, if there's no other comments, we're going to proceed on to our next item, which is request for board approval, certified appraisal rolls for the tax year of '25. Mr. Moy.
Thank you, President Finley. By law, you are required to accept the certified appraisal rolls that come from the 2 county appraisal districts. Because there are the 2 constitutional amendments that are still pending, the law was not clear as to whether I should only give you the summaries that assume the exemptions are going to pass or not. So I'm doing the same thing that we were required to do in '23, is I'm giving you the summaries both ways. So covering my tail here.
Okay, any comments or questions? Wait for a motion on this item.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees accept the certified appraisal rolls for tax year 2025 for the Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City Independent School District for Guadalupe and Bexar counties as presented.
I second.
Get my mic on. I have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Our next item is request for board approval, designation of officer to calculate the no new revenue tax rate and the voter approval tax rate. Again, Mr. Moy.
Okay, thank you again. There are prescribed forms from the comptroller's office to make certain calculations for the public and for, triggering what could be Vader. And recently they've said, well, you need to officially name who of the district is going to be responsible for those forms. Last year it was me. This year I tried to get Cindy to do it, but she wouldn't. So it's me again.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the resolution to designate the Chief Financial Officer or the officer as the officer to calculate the no new tax revenue rate and the voter approved tax rate as presented.
I second.
Motion and second. Do we have any comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Our next item is request for board approval, resolution providing for the defeasance and calling for redemption certain currently outstanding district obligations in the amount ranging from $8,500,000 to $8,500,000 to $12,900,000, delegating to certain district officials and staff the authority to effect matters related thereto and other matters in connection therewith. Again, Mr. Moy.
Thank you. I did not write that. As we've done the last few years, we are removing from our books principal from our debt early. We're doing, as we mentioned the last budget workshop, a slightly different mechanism for doing it, but this resolution that you're doing in the motion language is the same as really we've done the last few years.
I move the Board of Trustees to approve the district's defeasance resolution.
I second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any comments or questions? I do have one question. This will be our third year or fourth year to defease future bonds to save our taxpayers' interest?
Fourth.
Fourth, okay.
Drawing a blank on how much we did year one. Then we did about 11 million in year two. We did about 14.7 million last year. And this year, because of the way we're structuring it, we can actually determine the amount closer to February 1 when we set up the escrow, looking at the entire financial situation of our debt service fund. That's why it's an amount ranging. What I showed you at the last workshop was assuming 8 or 8.5, and basically it saved, putting that much into escrow, the money's gonna double and pay all of the interest plus the principal, saving future taxpayers about another $8 million, even if we went with that small of an amount. And the savings will only get bigger if we find that we're able to put more money into escrow in February.
So this last 4 years, we've been paying down our bonds using whatever money we've had in our fund balance and on the debt service side to actually pay off bonds early, which is always a good thing. So we've saved the taxpayer a considerable amount of money using their dollars to actually save them money, which is always a good thing. Okay, any other comments or questions? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay, our next item is request for bond approval, request for board approval, no new revenue, and voter approval tax rates for tax year 25. Mr. Moy.
Okay, going back to those comptroller schedules that you approved me to be in charge of, two things that it computes is the no new revenue tax rate, which basically means if we have the same amount of property both years, effectively, what would our rate have to be to get the same total amount of revenue? The second is, it just says if you adopt a rate greater than this, you are automatically triggering a local election. And so this is, the wording is a little bit different. It's like the certified rolls. You're not really approving, you are accepting.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees accept the no new revenue tax rate and voter-approved tax rate for the tax year 2025 as presented.
I second.
I have a motion and multiple seconds on this item. Do we have any comments or questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Our next item is adoption of 25-26 budgets. Again, Mr. Moy.
Okay, we started talking about the 25-26 budgets in February, and now we're in mid-August, and we're ready for approval for the General Fund, Child Nutrition Services Fund, and Debt Service Fund.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees adopt the fiscal year 2025-2026 budgets for the General Fund, Child Nutrition Services Fund, and the Debt Services Fund as presented.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments or questions?
Mr. Finley, I'd just like to say, I'd like to thank Mr. Moy and his staff for the work that they have done in a very different budget year and some different things to prepare for us this year. Ms. Machagimba and Ms. Schuster are also in the audience tonight. Really a big thank you to the Finance Department, but thank you to the executive team. This has been a team effort. And finally, thank you to all of you, because we did, I think, 7 tonight. Will be our 7th time to come together to talk about budget, and appreciate the time commitment to get this budget to the finish line this evening.
Do we have any comments or questions? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay. Our next item is request for board approval, adoption of the 25-26 maintenance and operations, M&O, and interest and sinking, or INS, tax rates. Again, Mr. Moy.
Okay, as was put in the presentation, we are bringing for board approval a tax rate that is higher than the voter approval tax rate, and for the M&O side, and for the entrance and sinking or debt service tax, it's actually we are proposing a reduction to the tax rate of 6 cents.
Mr. President, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of tax rate of $1.1969, which is effective a 9.02% increase in the tax rate.
I second.
Oh, yeah. Okay. One second. Okay, I got it. Okay, I have a motion and a second for passage. 60% or supermajority of the members of the board, or 5, must vote in favor. Further, this must be a record vote, and with each member's vote recorded in the minutes for this meeting. When your name is called, please respond with A or nay. Will Ms. Martinez please call the roll?
Ms. Carlin? Mr. Perkins?
A.
Mrs. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Finley?
Aye.
Mrs. Seaver?
Aye.
Mrs. Thomas?
Aye.
Mr. Swart?
A resolved aye.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
President Finley, there are 7 ayes and 0 nays.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Martinez. There being 7 ayes and 0 nays, greater than 60% vote in the affirmative, the motion is agreed to or passed. One second, let me do some paperwork here. Okay. Since we passed since previous item carried, we have an order for voter approval, tax ratification election at this time. So basically, we would now have to call an election for the voters to decide if they want to raise their tax rate at this point in time. So I will wait for the motion to call the election.
President Finley, if I may,
Go ahead.
depending on when you may have downloaded your packet out of Board Book, you may have had no attachment, like I did at the time I did mine, or one that said draft. Superintendent Maloney, just to be safe, is handing out the final version of the election order. There is no, if you did have the draft, there are 0 substantial changes to what was in there. So I just wanted to make sure you all had a copy of the final.
Yeah, I'm going through this. Anybody want to take a minute to look through the order? Everybody good?
Mr. President, I move to adopt an order to hold a approval tax ratification election.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments or questions on this item? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay, we got one more thing to go, or actually 2 more things. At this time, we're going to go into public comments. Do we have any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Very good, thank you. Okay, at this time, our next item is call to order general election for the Board of Trustees election for 2025. And this will be a regular general election. There are 4 places up for election, 4, 5, 6, and 7. For the first time in many years, I will not be on the ballot, which so I'm retiring from the board. Having said that, I will tell you that it has been a rewarding experience being here. I'll be here till November, and I look forward to who the voters choose. I think they're going to have a really good selection this time around. So I look forward to how the voters are going to vote, and I would recommend this position to most anybody who wants to come up here. It's a lot of work, but I can tell you it's very, very fulfilling, rewarding. I've been here since 2005, and so after 18 years of doing this, I've decided to go on to greener pastures, and well, we'll see if they're greener pastures or not. So I appreciate the time here, and the number of people I've been associated with here has been amazing, and This is amazing staff, the teachers, and everyone in this district has been amazing, and I wish the very best for this district going forward, and everybody in this room and everybody in this district. This is an amazing district, and I can't think of a better place to be. So,
Does that mean that we're putting you out to pasture?
I'm going to stay in the area for a while. So it's just one of those things where you realize that it's time to let the younger folks take charge or have new ideas come on board. So after 18 years, I think I've done my service, and like I said, it has been very rewarding. I would tell anybody it's very rewarding, and the people here are amazing. So I wish everybody in this room and everybody in this district the absolute best going forward. I'll be here in November, so I'm not going here quite just yet, but I will be here for a long time, and I can't think of a better place to be. So. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Trustees approve the attached joint election contract and agreement for election services between Schertz-Cibolo-Universal City Independent School District and the Guadalupe County Elections Administrator for the November 4th, 2025 general election.
A second?
Motion and a second. Do anyone have comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we have completed our agenda for the night. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.